Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. My name is Anda Malescu and I am the owner of Malescu law firm based in Miami, Florida, specializing in business, corporate and US immigration. We can assist you with all your immigration needs regardless of where you are currently located or where you plan to go in the United States. Today we are going to address some frequently asked questions regarding the E-3 dependent visa for your spouse and your children under the age of 21 and unmarried, including aspects related to obtaining a social security number, employment, health insurance, and other topics of importance for the E-3 visa for family members. But before we get started, please subscribe to our channel by clicking the bell button or the subscribe button. So the first question is, who qualifies for the E-3 dependent visa? Only spouses and children under the age of 21 and unmarried qualify for E-3 dependent visa based on the fact that there is an E-3 principal visa holder. This means that if your child is turning 21, they will not be able to qualify for the E-3 dependent visa any longer. Even if they already obtain an E-3 visa and the E-3 visa in their passport is already valid, or their I-94 status is already valid and it's still valid at the time they turn 21, they still will not be able to hold E-3 status regardless of what the I-94 record or the E-3 visa indicate. So once your child turns 21 years old, they will not be able, they're no longer in E-3 dependent status, so they will need to find a different visa category in order to be in the United States. The recommendation is that you actually proactively plan the E-3 visa for your child if you know that their 21 birthday is approaching, and you do that ahead of time, usually 1 year or more ahead of them turning 21 years old, in order to see what other options are out there for them to be in the United States past the point when they turn 21 years old, because at that time they will lose their E-3 dependent status. 2. Can spouse of E-3 visa holder work in the United States? Yes. Spouses of E-3 visa holders can work in the United States without restriction. This means that by holding an E-3S status, they can work for their own company, so they can start a business in the United States, they can work for any employer in the United States, and they can also work part-time or full-time or choose not to work at all. Now, this gives the spouses of E-3 visa holders a lot of flexibility, because unlike the principal applicant, the principal E-3 visa holder who can only work for the employer that sponsored them in the position that was approved, the spouses actually have an unrestricted right to work in the United States, so they can use that advantage to even find a US company to sponsor them for a green card. So there's a lot of flexibility involved when we are speaking about spouses on E-3 visa with the status E-3S. 3. Does my E-3 visa spouse need a work permit to work in the United States? The answer is no. Spouses of E-3 visa holders who are in the United States on an E-3S status do not need a work permit in order to work in the United States. They are automatically authorized to work in the United States based on their E-3S status, which is recorded on their I-94 record when they enter the United States. So when you enter the United States on an E-3 visa as a spouse, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection officer will issue you an I-94 record, and the I-94 record would have the status annotated as an E-3S, indicating that you are the spouse of an E-3 visa holder coming to the United States on an E-3 visa as a spouse. And that record that you can also obtain, the I-94 record, you can also obtain it online, is basically the basis for your authorization to work in the United States. And your authorization to work in the United States is unrestricted. So that's proof of your unrestricted right to work in the United States. Now, in the past, it used to be the case that E-3 visa holders, spouses of E-3 visa holders, would need to apply for a work permit on Form I-765 with the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services before they can actually work in the United States. Now, this is optional. You do not have to go through this step at this point. You don't need to obtain the work permit from the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services in order to work in the United States if you're coming on an E-3 visa as a spouse. You can simply work the moment you arrive in the United States with the E-3S status as recorded on your I-94 record. And we are going to put a link below the video for the I-94, to retrieve your I-94 record from CBP. When you start a job in the United States, the employer will have to do a Form I-9 verification, basically verifying your identity and employment eligibility. And part of that Form I-9 verification, you will need to provide proof that you are eligible to work in the United States. And as a proof, you will provide a valid, unexpired I-94 record indicating your status as E-3S. And that provides a proof that you are authorized to work in the United States. 4. Can my children on E-3 dependent visa get a work permit? No. Children under the age of 21 and unmarried who are in the United States on an E-3Y status with an E-3 visa are not authorized to work in the United States and do not need a work permit, as they cannot work in the United States. 5. Now we are going to speak about obtaining a social security number for E-3 dependent visa holders. So what is a social security number? A social security number is a 9-digit number issued by the U.S. government to U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, so green card holders, and foreign nationals who are authorized to work in the United States. The social security number is used to track income, social security benefits, and also identify individuals for tax purposes. 6. Can my E-3 dependent spouse get a social security number? Yes. Your E-3 dependent spouse, so if you are a spouse of an E-3 principal visa holder, you are allowed to get a social security number after you enter the United States on the E-3S status as annotated on your I-94 record. Once you enter the United States, you will go to the Social Security Administration and obtain a Social Security number, which will allow you to work in the United States for any employer and also create credit history. Keep in mind that the social security number is issued only once and you need to be physically present in the United States in order to obtain your social security number. 7. Can my E3 dependent children get a social security number? No. E3 dependent children are not authorized to work in the United States, and as a result they do not get a social security number. Also keep in mind that once the child turns 21 years old or is getting married prior to turning 21, their E3 dependent status ends, and in order for them to continue to be in the United States, they'll need to find another visa option that allows for them to be in the United States. 8. How to apply for a social security number with the E3 visa. So dependent spouses who are looking to obtain a social security number must do the following. 1. Complete an online application. You must complete form SS5, which you can find on the website of the Social Security Administration. And we are going to link below the website to the Social Security Administration. And 2, you must visit a local office of the Social Security Administration. So after you complete your SS5 online, you can schedule or visit a local Social Security Administration office and bring all the required documents with you, including your passport in original, your E3 visa, your original E3 visa, and also your most recent I-94 record indicating E3S status, and any other documents that are required, which you can find on the Social Security Administration website. Now keep in mind that you do not need the Social Security number in order to start working in the United States. This number does not give you the right to work in the United States per se. It's actually your E3S status that gives you the right to work in the United States, but you will need to obtain a social security number in order to be paid your wages. 9. Now we are going to speak about the E3 dependent visa interview. So what to expect at the E3 dependent visa interview. If you are applying for an E3 dependent visa, then you and your child, age 14 or older, must attend an in-person interview at the U.S. consulate abroad. If your child is younger than 14, then they do not need to attend the in-person interview with you. Instead, you will file a DS-160 form for your child and bring their passport and original birth certificate to your E3 visa interview. But the child, if they're under 14, they do not need to be present at the interview. Now, the interview will primarily focus on verifying your identity and also establishing your dependent relationship to the principal E3 visa holder, meaning that as a spouse you will need to provide a marriage license, and you should bring the marriage license to your E3 visa interview, which will establish the spousal relationship to the principal E3 visa holder. And for dependent children, in order to establish that relationship with the principal E3 visa holder, you will need to provide the birth certificate of the children listing their parents and showing that the principal E3 visa holder is one of the parents. 10. What are common interview questions for E3 dependent visa? So common interview questions for E3 dependent visa are: what is your occupation? What are you planning to do in the United States? When and where did you and your spouse get married? And have you visited the United States before? 11. E-3 dependent visa documents. So you should bring with you at the interview the following E-3 visa documents in original and also certified translation if necessary. 1. DS-160 confirmation page for you and any dependent children. 2. The visa fee payment for you and any dependent children. 3. Valid passports for you and dependent children if applicable. 4. Your marriage license. 5. Birth certificates for any dependent children. And 6. Copy of the principal applicant's E-3 visa. 12. What are the requirements for E-3 dependent visa? So the main requirement in order to obtain an E-3 dependent visa is evidence of your relation to the principal E-3 visa holder. For spouses of E-3 visa holders, this means the marriage certificate. You must provide the marriage certificate in order to prove your relationship to the E3, the principal E3 visa holder. And for dependent children, the evidence is the birth certificate. So you need to provide the birth certificate for the dependent children in order to show the relationship to the E3, the principal E3 visa holder. Now, spouses and dependent children who are not citizens of Australia can also obtain E3 dependent visas. 13. How to renew the E3 visa for dependents. So you can renew your E3 dependent visa in a similar fashion to obtaining your initial E3 visa. This means that you must attend an in-person interview at the U.S. Consulate abroad and provide evidence of your relation to the principal E3 visa holder. This means you attend an interview and you must bring the following documents to your interview. The DS-160 confirmation page for you as the spouse and any dependent children. The visa payment for the visa fee for you as a spouse and dependent children. Valid passports for you as the spouse and the dependent children, if any. The marriage license and the birth certificates for any dependent children. And finally, copy of a valid E3 visa for the principal E3 visa holder. And finally, 14, the principal applicant's E3 visa was terminated. Do I get a grace period as an E3 dependent? Yes, you get a 60-day grace period as an E3 dependent when the principal applicant's E3 visa is terminated. However, during the 60-day grace period, the principal applicant has a couple of options in order to continue to stay in the United States. 1. Apply for change of status to a different visa category if they qualify. 2. Apply for an adjustment of status if they have an approved green card petition and the visa bulletin is current and they qualify to apply for adjustment of status. Or 3, you can actually find a new employer. So the E3 visa applicant, the principal E3 visa applicant, can find a new employer, or even you as an E3 visa spouse can find an employer But for the principal E-3 visa applicant, if they find a new employer during the grace period, they can actually file for a change of employer with the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services and continue to be in the United States in E-3 status, or they can do an LCA for this new employer and travel abroad and obtain a new E-3 visa for the new employer. Keep in mind that if during the grace period you actually are not able to find an option to continue to stay in the United States, then you need to leave the United States at the end of the 60-day grace period or at the end of your I-94 expiration date, if the expiration date on your I-94 is shorter than your 60-day grace period. So whichever period is shorter, the 60-day grace period or the expiration date on your I-94, you will need to leave by that date if you cannot find an option to continue to stay in the United States. This is all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel, and if you need to get in touch with us, you have our contact information in this video and below this video. We will see you soon. Bye.